Most people think paying cash for a vehicle is the cleanest financial move you can make. No monthly payment, no interest, no lender breathing down your neck. You hand over the money, take the keys, and drive away feeling free. And I understand that feeling, especially after 40, after decades of bills, debt, stress, and watching interest quietly eat pieces of your paycheck. The idea of owning something outright feels almost peaceful. You tell yourself, at least nobody can take this from me. And that matters. But here's the part nobody likes to say out loud. Sometimes paying cash does not make you free. Sometimes it only makes you feel free while your real financial protection quietly disappears. Because the question is not just, can I afford this car? The deeper question is, what happens to my life after I buy it? If you use $28,000 in cash to avoid a payment, but now your emergency fund is thin, your retirement account is behind, your house needs repairs, or one medical bill would shake your entire month, then the vehicle is paid for, yes. But something else is now exposed, and that hidden cost is what we need to talk about. The first hidden cost of paying cash for a vehicle is not the money you spend. It is the money you no longer have access to. That may sound obvious, but it is amazing how many people skip that part because the word cash feels so responsible. Paying cash sounds mature. It sounds disciplined. It sounds like something your grandfather would have respected. And in many cases, it can be a wise move. But cash has a quiet power that disappears the moment you trade it for metal, tires, and a title. Before you buy the vehicle, that cash can do many things. It can cover a deductible. It can fix the roof. It can get you through a job loss. It can help your adult child in a real emergency. It can keep you from touching a credit card when life turns sharp. After you buy the vehicle, most of that flexibility is gone. You still own an asset, yes, but it is not the same kind of asset. A car does not sit in your bank account ready to protect you. A car does not quietly pay the hospital bill. A car does not cover 3 months of groceries if your income stops. A car may be valuable, but it is not liquid in the way real cash is liquid. And after 40, this distinction becomes more important than it was at 25. At 25, a financial mistake may feel painful, but there is usually more time to recover. At 45, 55, or 62, the same mistake can echo differently, not because you are old, but because your financial life has more weight on it. There may be a mortgage, there may be aging parents, there may be health concerns, there may be college expenses, insurance premiums, repairs, taxes, and the quiet pressure of retirement getting closer. So the real question is not, is it good to avoid a car payment? Of course it is good to avoid unnecessary debt. The real question is, what did I have to give up to avoid that payment? Imagine a man with $40,000 in savings. He has worked hard for that money. It took years of discipline. He sees a used truck for $32,000. It is clean, reliable, exactly what he wants. And he thinks, I can pay cash, no payment, done. On paper, that looks strong. But after the purchase, he has $8,000 left. Now ask a different question. Is this man really safer than he was before? He owns the truck, but he also reduced his financial oxygen. If his HVAC system goes out, if he has a dental emergency, if his hours get cut at work, if his spouse needs something unexpected, he may be forced right back into the kind of debt he was trying to avoid. That is the trap. Sometimes people avoid a 6% auto loan and then, 3 months later, carry a 22% credit card balance because life happened and their cash was gone. That does not mean financing is always smarter. It means the comparison has to be honest. You are not comparing car payment versus no car payment. You are comparing preserved flexibility versus reduced flexibility. And flexibility has value, especially in a stage of life where stability matters more than appearance. Here is a simple mental test. After paying cash for the vehicle, could you still handle one major surprise without panic? Not an imaginary surprise, a real one. A $4,000 repair, a medical deductible, a family emergency, a sudden income gap, a property tax bill that arrives at the worst possible time. If the answer is no, then the cash purchase may not be as safe as it looks. It may simply be moving risk from one place to another. You removed the lender from the vehicle, but you invited pressure into the rest of your life. And this is where many good, disciplined people get caught. They are not reckless. They are not trying to show off. They are doing what they were taught: avoid debt, pay cash, own your things. But personal finance after 40 is not just about avoiding debt, it is about protecting options. Options are what keep a bad week from becoming a bad year. Options are what allow you to sleep. Options are what keep you from selling investments at the wrong time, borrowing from retirement, or swiping a credit card just to breathe. When you drain cash too aggressively, you may win the emotional battle and lose the structural one. You feel peace for a moment because there is no payment. But then you live with the quiet tension of a thinner cushion. And that tension changes how you make decisions. You delay repairs, you hesitate at the doctor, you avoid opening bills. You tell yourself, we just need to get through the next few months. And suddenly, the car that was supposed to represent freedom becomes part of the pressure. Not because the car is bad, but because the purchase left your financial life too exposed. This is why the smartest question before paying cash is not, do I have the money? It is, will I still be financially strong after the money is gone? That one question can save people from a lot of regret, because a vehicle should serve your life. It should not quietly weaken the foundation underneath it. The second hidden cost is opportunity. And I know that word can sound cold, like something from a finance textbook. But in real life, opportunity is not theory. Opportunity is the quiet difference between where your money could have been working and where it is now sitting. When you pay cash for a vehicle, you are not just buying transportation. You are making a decision about what that money will no longer do. That $25,000 or $35,000 is no longer available to earn interest. It is no longer available to strengthen your retirement account. It is no longer available to reduce a higher interest debt. It is no longer available to create a cash buffer that protects your household from stress. And this matters more after 40 because your money has a different job now. When you are younger, money often feels like fuel for movement. You use it to start life, build credit, move cities, buy furniture, make mistakes, recover, try again. But after 40, money slowly becomes protection. It becomes margin. It becomes distance between you and chaos. So when you take a large pile of cash and place it into a depreciating asset, you have to ask, what did I remove from my future to feel better today? A vehicle is useful. It may be necessary. I am not pretending people can live without one. In many parts of America, especially outside large cities, a reliable vehicle is not a luxury. It is how you get to work. It is how you take care of family. It is how you live. But useful does not mean harmless. A car can be useful and still quietly expensive in ways that do not appear on the sticker. Let's say someone is 52 years old. They have $60,000 saved outside of retirement. They are not in terrible shape, but they know they are behind. Retirement is not some faraway idea anymore. It is starting to appear in the room, not loudly, but it is there. They decide to pay $35,000 cash for a vehicle because they hate the idea of payments. Again, emotionally, that makes sense. But now the question becomes, what else could that $35,000 have done? Could part of it have stayed in a high-yield savings account as emergency protection? Could part of it have gone into retirement investments? Could part of it have paid down a credit card or personal loan with a much higher interest rate than an auto loan? Could it have prevented the person from needing to borrow later? This is not about chasing every possible return. That is not how real people live. It is about understanding that every dollar has a role. And when too many dollars are trapped in one object sitting in the driveway, other parts of your life may become underfunded. This is where people confuse debt-free with financially strong. They are not always the same thing. A person can own a paid-off vehicle and still be fragile. A person can have no car payment and still be one emergency away from panic. A person can avoid financing and still lose money because they gave up liquidity, growth, and breathing room. Now compare two people. One pays $34,000 cash for a vehicle and keeps only $5,000 in savings afterward. The other puts $10,000 down, finances the rest with a reasonable payment, and keeps $24,000 in reserve. Who is in a stronger position? The answer depends on the interest rate, income, debt, and discipline. But it is not automatically the first person. That is the point. Sometimes the person with a payment is actually safer because they kept their financial cushion intact. And sometimes the person with no payment is the one living closer to the edge. This is uncomfortable because it goes against the simple rule many of us grew up with. If you can pay cash, pay cash. But after a certain age, simple rules need context. The old rule came from a world where cars were cheaper, healthcare was cheaper, housing was cheaper, and pensions were more common. For many people now, the financial landscape is different. A vehicle can cost as much as a serious investment decision. Insurance can feel like a second payment. Repairs can come without mercy. And retirement responsibility often sits almost entirely on the individual. So the rule cannot just be never borrow. The better rule is never weaken your whole life to avoid one payment. That is more honest. Here's a practical way to think about it. Before paying cash for a vehicle, look at your money in layers. Layer 1 is survival cash, rent or mortgage, food, utilities, insurance, medication, basic transportation. That money should not be touched casually. Layer 2 is emergency cash, the money that protects you from life when life stops asking permission. Layer 3 is future money, retirement contributions, long-term investments, debt reduction, home maintenance, and the things that keep your future self from paying for today's comfort. Only after those layers are protected should the vehicle money be considered available. Because the danger is not buying a car. The danger is buying a car with money that was already assigned to protect you, even if you never named the assignment. Many people do this without realizing it. They look at a bank balance and think, I have enough. But not all money in the bank is truly free money. Some of that money belongs to the roof that will need replacing. Some belongs to the medical expense that has not arrived yet. Some belongs to the slow months at work. Some belongs to retirement. Some belongs to peace. And when you spend it all on a vehicle, those future needs do not disappear. They just wait. This is why paying cash can feel responsible in the moment and still create regret later. Because regret often does not show up on the day you buy the car. It shows up 6 months later, when you realize the money solved one problem by making 3 other problems tighter. So if you are thinking about paying cash, do not just ask whether the vehicle is worth the price. Ask what part of your life becomes smaller after you write the check. Does your safety shrink? Does your retirement slow down? Does your ability to say no shrink? Does your ability to handle a bad month shrink? Because that is the real cost. Not just the price of the vehicle, the price of the options you gave away. The third hidden cost is depreciation, but not in the way people usually talk about it. Most people know vehicles lose value. That is not a secret. You drive it off the lot, the number drops. You put miles on it, the number drops. A newer model comes out, the number drops. A small accident appears on the history report, the number drops again. But the deeper problem is not just that the car loses value. The deeper problem is that your cash loses purpose at the same time. When you pay cash, you take money that could have remained flexible and place it into something that begins shrinking almost immediately. And for a while, you may not feel it. The vehicle is still nice. It still smells clean. It still starts every morning. It still gives you that little quiet satisfaction when you see it in the driveway. But financially, something has changed. You now have a large part of your wealth sitting inside an object that is slowly becoming worth less while still demanding more from you. Insurance does not stop. Registration does not stop. Tires do not stop. Maintenance does not stop. Repairs do not stop. And if it is a nicer vehicle, those costs often rise quietly. The vehicle is paid off, but it is not free. That sentence matters. Paid off does not mean free. A lot of people after 40 understand this only after they buy the vehicle. They think the expensive part was the purchase. Then 6 months later, they see the insurance premium. Then the tires need replacing. Then the dealership recommends a service that costs more than expected. Then the property tax or registration renewal arrives. Then fuel costs more than they thought. And slowly, the cash purchase keeps pulling money from the household, not as a monthly loan payment, but as a lifestyle commitment. This is why you have to evaluate the whole vehicle, not just the absence of a payment. A $38,000 vehicle paid in cash can still be heavier than a $22,000 vehicle financed carefully. Not always, but sometimes. Because the real financial weight is not only the loan, It is the total cost of owning that machine for the next 5, 6, 7 years. And after 40, this becomes personal, because every dollar that goes into maintaining a vehicle is a dollar that cannot go toward rebuilding margin. Every unexpected repair competes with retirement contributions. Every insurance increase competes with grocery inflation. Every upgrade competes with the kind of quiet stability that lets you sleep better at night. So here is a practical question that is more useful than, can I pay cash? Ask this: can I comfortably own this vehicle after I buy it? Not buy it. Own it. There is a difference. Buying is one moment. Owning is a relationship. Buying is signing paperwork. Owning is paying for tires 2 years later. Owning is handling a repair without resentment. Owning is watching the value drop and not feeling trapped. Owning is being able to say, this vehicle fits my life, not just, I was able to purchase it. Many people buy at the edge of what they can afford because paying cash makes the decision feel safer. They think, there is no payment, so I am fine. But the payment was never the only risk. The risk was using too much of your financial strength on something that declines while your real life continues to make demands. Think of it this way: if you paid $30,000 cash for a vehicle and 2 years later it is worth $21,000, you did not just lose $9,000 on paper. You also spent 2 years without that $30,000 working somewhere else, protecting something else, earning something else, or simply sitting there as peace. Now, that does not automatically mean you made a bad decision. A vehicle provides value. It gets you to work. It keeps you reliable. It may reduce repair headaches. It may make daily life easier. But the value has to be measured honestly. Was the vehicle reliable transportation, or was it emotional relief dressed up as financial wisdom? That is a hard question, but it is useful. Because sometimes people pay cash not because the numbers make sense, but because they are tired. Tired of debt, tired of lenders, tired of bills, tired of feeling like every part of life has a payment attached to it. And when you are tired, the phrase paid in full can feel like medicine. But tired decisions can still be expensive decisions, especially when the vehicle is more than you really needed. Maybe you did not need the top trim. Maybe you did not need the bigger engine. Maybe you did not need the luxury badge. Maybe you did not need to replace the old car this year. Maybe a $16,000 reliable used vehicle would have protected your life better than a $34,000 cash purchase that made you feel successful for a month and financially tight for 2 years. This is not about guilt. It is about honesty. Because by the time many people reach their 40s, 50s, and 60s, they are not just buying transportation. They are buying identity. They are buying relief. They are buying a reward for all the years they worked and carried everyone else. And there is nothing wrong with wanting something nice, but there is danger in letting a vehicle become proof that you are doing better than you really are. The driveway can lie. A clean vehicle in the driveway can make life look stable while the bank account is thin, the retirement account is behind, and the emergency fund is one surprise away from disappearing. That is why the smartest vehicle decision is often quieter than the most exciting one. It may be buying less car than you can technically afford. It may be keeping the current vehicle one more year and using that year to strengthen your cash position. It may be paying cash only for part of the vehicle and preserving enough savings to stay safe. It may be choosing reliability over status, lower insurance over appearance, and long-term calm over short-term pride. Because the goal is not to impress the neighbors. The goal is to protect the household. And the strange thing is, when you think this way, the vehicle decision becomes clearer. You stop asking, what car can I get? And you start asking, what car allows the rest of my life to stay strong? That question changes everything. Because a good financial decision should not only look good on the day you make it. It should still feel solid when the first repair bill comes, when insurance renews, when the market drops, when work gets uncertain, when life asks for money you did not plan to spend. That is when you find out whether you bought freedom, or whether you simply bought a very expensive object with cash and called it freedom. The fourth hidden cost is the way a cash purchase can make you ignore the real price of the decision. When people finance a vehicle, the payment stares at them every month. It is visible. It interrupts the budget. It forces the question, can I really carry this? Sometimes that question prevents a person from overbuying, but when people pay cash, The pain is concentrated into one moment, one check, one transfer, one signature. Then it is done. And because there is no monthly payment afterward, the brain sometimes treats the vehicle as if it stopped costing money. But it did not. The cost just became less visible. That is dangerous because invisible costs are the ones that sneak into a household. After 40, a lot of financial damage does not come from one dramatic mistake. It comes from a series of decisions that each seem reasonable alone. A little too much car, a little too little emergency cash, a little pause in retirement contributions, a little credit card balance that was supposed to be temporary, a little home repair delayed, a little insurance premium ignored. One by one, none of them feels like a disaster. Together, they change the shape of your life. This is why a cash vehicle purchase should never be judged only by the feeling it gives you. It should be judged by what it does to your monthly rhythm afterward. Because even without a payment, your financial life still has rhythm. Money comes in, money goes out. Some months are clean, some months are messy, some months surprise you. Some months punish you for things you thought you had under control, and the vehicle becomes part of that rhythm. Let's say someone pays $30,000 cash for a vehicle. No loan, no payment. Beautiful. But now their savings are lower. Their insurance is $80 more per month than before. Their registration is higher. Their gas costs are higher. Their tires are more expensive. They stop contributing an extra $300 a month to retirement because they want to rebuild savings first. Then rebuilding savings takes longer than expected because life keeps happening. A year passes. On paper, they still say, "At least I have no car payment." But quietly, the vehicle changed several parts of their financial life. That is the hidden cost. Not just the cash that left, the habits and protections that got interrupted afterward. And this is where practical honesty matters. Before paying cash for a vehicle, ask yourself, what will I stop doing after this purchase? That question reveals more than most calculations. Will I stop investing for a few months? Will I stop adding to my emergency fund? Will I delay a needed repair? Will I carry more credit card balance? Will I feel nervous every time an unexpected bill arrives? Will I become more dependent on my next paycheck? Will I tell myself I will rebuild the savings quickly, even though I know my budget has not had much extra room lately? That last one is important. A lot of people pay cash with a plan to rebuild the money, but the plan is based on an ideal version of their life. No surprise bills, no family needs, no inflation, no dental work, no insurance increases, no appliance breaking, no job stress, no adult child calling for help, no parent needing support, no property tax shock, no medical deductible. Real life rarely follows the clean version of the budget. So if the only way the cash purchase makes sense is if nothing goes wrong for the next year, it may not be a strong decision. It may be a fragile decision wearing responsible clothes. And after 40, fragile decisions are expensive because there is less room for financial whiplash. You do not want to spend the next 12 months rebuilding the protection you spent 20 minutes signing away. Now, there is another side to this. Some people absolutely should pay cash. If you have a strong emergency fund, no high-interest debt, retirement contributions are on track, your household is stable, and the vehicle price does not disturb the foundation, then paying cash can be excellent. It can simplify your life. It can remove interest. It can reduce monthly pressure. It can help you sleep better. The problem is not paying cash. The problem is paying cash because it feels responsible without checking whether it actually is responsible in your situation. There is a difference between a cash purchase that comes from strength and a cash purchase that creates weakness. One says, "I can buy this and remain secure." The other says, "I can buy this, but I need everything to go perfectly afterward." Those are not the same decision. Here is a quiet test. If you paid cash for the vehicle today and tomorrow you had to spend $5,000 on something urgent, would you still feel steady? Not happy. Nobody is happy about surprise expenses. But steady. Would you have options? Would you avoid credit card debt? Would you keep retirement contributions going? Would your household remain calm? If the answer is yes, paying cash may be reasonable. If the answer is no, then the issue is not the vehicle. The issue is timing, price, or structure. Maybe you need a cheaper vehicle. Maybe you need to wait 6 months. Maybe you need to keep more cash and finance a portion. Maybe you need to repair the current car and buy time. Maybe you need to separate what you want from what your household can absorb. And that word matters. Absorb. A good financial decision is one your life can absorb, not just one your bank account can technically allow. Because there are many things a bank account can allow that a life cannot comfortably carry. You may have the cash, but that does not mean the cash is available. Some money is not meant to be touched just because it is visible. Some money is a wall. Some money is a bridge. Some money is oxygen. And when you use oxygen to buy comfort, you may not feel the loss until the room gets tight. This is why I believe people over 40 need a different kind of vehicle rule. Not pay cash whenever possible. Not finance everything and keep your money invested. Those rules are too simple. The better rule is this. Buy the vehicle in a way that protects your future self from needing desperate money later. Because desperate money is the most expensive money in America. Credit card money is desperate money. Payday loans are desperate money. Retirement withdrawals can become desperate money. Selling investments during a downturn can be desperate money. Borrowing from family can be desperate money. And sometimes people avoid an auto loan only to create the conditions for more painful borrowing later. That is not victory. That is just moving the debt into a darker corner. So before you hand over the cash, slow the decision down. Picture yourself 6 months later. Not on the day you get the keys. 6 months later. The vehicle is normal now. The excitement has faded. It is just your car. You have groceries to buy, insurance to pay, maybe a doctor appointment, maybe a repair at home, maybe retirement anxiety creeping in again. Does the decision still feel wise in that ordinary month? That is where truth lives. Not in the dealership, not in the smell of the interior, not in the relief of avoiding a payment. Truth lives in the ordinary month after the excitement is gone, and if the vehicle still fits your life there, you may be making a sound decision. But if the ordinary month becomes tighter, heavier, more anxious, and more dependent on everything going right, then the cash price was not the full price. It was only the first one. The fifth hidden cost is psychological, and this one is easy to miss because it does not show up in a spreadsheet. When people pay cash for a vehicle, they often feel a sense of closure. The decision feels finished. There is no lender, no statement, no monthly reminder, no balance slowly hanging over the household, and emotionally that can feel powerful. But sometimes the feeling of closure makes people stop watching the decision. They think the car problem is solved. But a vehicle is not a solved problem. It is an ongoing financial relationship. It keeps aging. It keeps needing care. It keeps losing value. It keeps affecting insurance. It keeps shaping your budget. It keeps influencing your choices. And if you paid too much cash for it, that decision keeps living quietly in the background. You may not call it stress. You may not even connect it to the vehicle. But you start noticing little changes. You hesitate before spending money on things that actually matter. You delay the dentist. You hold off on replacing the water heater. You skip a retirement contribution just this month. You feel irritated when another bill comes in. You become more sensitive to every surprise expense because your cushion is not what it used to be. And the strange part is, you may still defend the purchase. You say, "At least it's paid off." That sentence can be true and incomplete. A paid-off car can still be part of the pressure if it consumed too much of your cash. That is why pride can become expensive, not loud pride, not flashy pride, the quieter kind. The pride of saying, "I don't borrow money for cars." The pride of believing that paying cash automatically puts you above the person with a loan. The pride of following an old rule without asking whether your life has changed. And after 40, pride can be more dangerous than interest. Because pride does not ask for a credit check. It does not send a bill. It does not show up as a rate. It simply whispers, "This is what responsible people do," even when the responsible thing might be to keep more cash, buy less car, or slow down. This is where wisdom gets different from discipline. Discipline says, "I hate debt, so I will avoid it." Wisdom says, "I hate debt, but I also hate being cash poor, so I will look at the whole picture." Discipline is good, but wisdom is wider. And in your 40s, 50s, and 60s, you need wider thinking. Because financial life is no longer just about making the best isolated move. It is about making decisions that work together. The vehicle decision has to work with your retirement plan. It has to work with your emergency fund. It has to work with your insurance costs. It has to work with your income stability. It has to work with your spouse's comfort level. It has to work with your health situation. It has to work with the house, the taxes, the repairs, the family obligations, the future you are trying to build. A car does not live alone in your budget. It moves in and takes up space. So the real question becomes, how much space should it be allowed to take? For some people, paying cash for a modest vehicle is perfect. They buy something reliable, keep savings intact, avoid debt, and move on with a cleaner life. For others, paying cash becomes a way to overbuy without feeling like they overbought, because there is no monthly payment to expose the size of the decision. This is one of the most important practical ideas in this whole conversation. Cash can hide overspending. A payment forces comparison. It asks, does this fit every month? Cash can make you skip that question. You see $45,000 in savings and a $32,000 vehicle, and the brain says, I can do this. But the better question is not, can I do this? The better question is, should this much of my financial life be sitting in the driveway? That question slows you down, and slowing down is often where better decisions begin. Here is a simple exercise. Before buying a vehicle with cash, divide the price by the number of years you expect to keep it. If the vehicle costs $30,000 and you plan to keep it for 6 years, that is $5,000 per year before insurance, fuel, maintenance, repairs, registration, and depreciation. That is not to scare you. It is to make the cost visible again. Then ask yourself, is this vehicle worth that much of my life every year? Not just my money, my life. Because money is time. Money is stress. Money is margin. Money is the ability to say yes. Money is the ability to say no. Money is the ability to not panic. Now add the ownership costs. If insurance, maintenance, registration, tires, and repairs average another $3,000 or $4,000 a year, the real annual cost becomes much higher than the price you negotiated. Suddenly, the paid-off vehicle is not free. It is simply prepaid. And that word changes the feeling. When you pay cash, you are not escaping the cost. You are pulling a large part of the cost forward into today. That can be wise if your foundation is strong, but it can be risky if today's cash is the thing protecting tomorrow's stability. This is also why people need to be careful with "I deserve it" purchases. Because sometimes you do deserve comfort. You do deserve reliability. You do deserve something that does not break down every 2 months. You do deserve to stop worrying whether the car will start. But deserving something does not automatically mean buying the most expensive version of it. You can deserve peace and still choose a vehicle that preserves your peace. You can deserve reliability and still refuse to drain your savings. You can deserve something better and still protect your future self. That is maturity, not deprivation, not fear. Maturity. The ability to say, I want this, I could buy this, but I am not going to let one decision weaken the rest of my life. There is a quiet strength in that. And nobody sees it. Nobody claps when you buy the slightly cheaper vehicle. Nobody praises you when you keep your emergency fund intact. Nobody knows you chose the lower insurance premium, the simpler model, the less impressive badge, the calmer financial structure. But your future self knows. Your household knows. Your sleep knows. And after 40, that kind of peace becomes more valuable than looking like you made it. Because the goal is not to own a vehicle without a payment. The goal is to own a vehicle without regret. And those are not always the same thing. So before paying cash, do not just negotiate with the seller. Negotiate with your own emotions. Ask what you are really buying. Are you buying transportation? Are you buying status? Are you buying relief from debt fatigue? Are you buying proof that you are responsible? Are you buying a reward for years of sacrifice? None of those answers makes you bad. They make you human, but you need to know which one is driving the decision. Because when emotion is driving, math often sits quietly in the passenger seat, saying nothing until it is too late. And the most expensive vehicle decisions usually happen when emotion and cash shake hands before wisdom enters the room. If you are still here with me near the end of this video, I want to invite you to subscribe to the channel and walk with us every day. Because conversations like this are not really about cars. They are about the quiet financial decisions that shape the second half of your life. The ones nobody talks about at the dealership. The ones that do not look dramatic from the outside, but can either protect your household or slowly make it more fragile. And that brings us to the part most people only understand after they have already made the purchase. A vehicle decision is never just a vehicle decision, it is a retirement decision. It is an emergency fund decision, it is a marriage decision, it is a health decision, it is a sleep at night decision. It is a decision about how much pressure you are willing to carry in exchange for convenience, pride, comfort, or relief. And the older you get, the more every large purchase has to pass through one question. Does this make my life stronger after the excitement is gone? That question is simple, but it is not easy, because excitement is persuasive. Excitement says, you worked hard, you deserve this. Fear says, you better pay cash or you will be trapped. Pride says, responsible people do not finance vehicles. The dealership says, this one will not last long. Your old car says, I am tired. Your ego says, it would feel good to drive something better. And somewhere underneath all of that, your future self is quietly asking, will there still be enough left to protect me? That is the voice you need to hear. Not because you should never buy the vehicle, not because cash is bad, but because the best financial decisions are not made by the loudest emotion in the room. They are made by the calmest part of you, the part that can look 6 months ahead, 12 months ahead, 5 years ahead. The part that understands that a decision can feel good today and still be too heavy tomorrow. So before paying cash for a vehicle, imagine 3 versions of the same life. In the first version, you pay cash for the vehicle you really want. It feels good, no payment, clean title. You drive home proud, but your savings drop sharply. Now every unexpected bill has a little more weight. You start rebuilding, but slowly. You still say the vehicle was worth it, but there is a tightness in the background you did not expect. In the second version, you buy a less expensive vehicle with cash. It is not the dream one. It does not impress anybody. But it is reliable. Insurance is manageable. Your emergency fund stays alive. You still have money for repairs, medical surprises, retirement, and life. It is not exciting, but your household remains strong. In the third version, you put a reasonable amount down, finance the rest carefully, and keep a larger cash cushion. You do not love having a payment, but the payment fits comfortably. Your savings remain intact. If something happens, you have options. You are not cash poor. You are not pretending the car is free. You are choosing structure over emotion. Now, the right answer depends on the person. That is why this is not a simple rule. For one household, the first version may be fine. For another, it may be dangerous. For another, the second version may be the wisest move. For another, financing part of the vehicle may protect the household better than draining cash. The mature financial decision is not always the one that sounds best in a sentence. No car payment sounds good. Paid cash sounds good. Debt-free vehicle sounds good. But your life does not run on slogans. Your life runs on cash flow, reserves, health, obligations, timing, income stability, and the unexpected things that arrive without asking whether you are ready. So here is a practical filter that can help. If paying cash for the vehicle leaves you with less than 6 months of essential expenses, be careful. If it forces you to pause retirement contributions for a long time, be careful. If it leaves you unable to handle a major repair, be careful. If it only works because you assume nothing will go wrong, be careful. If you are using cash because you are tired of debt, but the vehicle price is higher than your life can comfortably absorb, be careful. That word careful is not fear. Careful is respect. Respect for the years it took to build that cash. Respect for the future expenses you know are coming. Respect for the fact that after 40, financial recovery is still possible, but time becomes more valuable. You do not have to live scared. You just have to stop making large decisions as if the only thing that matters is the payment. Sometimes the payment is not the enemy. Sometimes the enemy is losing flexibility. Sometimes the enemy is overbuying. Sometimes the enemy is putting too much money into a depreciating asset. Sometimes the enemy is protecting your pride while exposing your household, and sometimes the wisest move is not the one that feels strongest in the moment, it is the one that leaves you strongest afterward. That is the line. Afterward. How do you feel afterward? Not at the dealership. Not when you hold the keys. Not when the neighbor sees the car. Not when you tell someone you paid cash. How do you feel 3 months later when the insurance bill comes? How do you feel when the refrigerator breaks? How do you feel when the market is down and retirement anxiety returns? How do you feel when your child needs help? How do you feel when your old roof starts leaking? How do you feel when you look at your savings and realize the car is sitting in the driveway, but your margin is gone? That is where the truth of the decision reveals itself. A vehicle should not make your life smaller. It should not take away your ability to breathe. It should not force you into quiet panic every time life gets expensive. The right vehicle decision should feel almost boring after the purchase. Stable, manageable, absorbable. It should fit into your life without demanding that every other part of your life shrink around it. Because when a vehicle is truly affordable, it does not just fit the bank balance. It fits the life. And that is the part people miss. They ask, "Can I buy it?" They do not ask, "Can my life carry it?" Those are two very different questions. And after 40, the second question matters more. So after all of this, the point is not that paying cash for a vehicle is wrong. It is not wrong. For some people, it is one of the cleanest decisions they can make. They have the reserves. They have the income. They have the retirement plan moving. They have no high-interest debt. They buy a reasonable vehicle, keep their household protected, and enjoy the simplicity of owning it outright. That can be wise. But wisdom is not found in the method alone. Wisdom is found in what the decision does to the rest of your life. Because the real hidden cost of paying cash for a vehicle is not always interest lost or depreciation or the money that could have been invested. Those things matter. But underneath all of them, the real cost is this. You may trade visible debt for invisible weakness. And invisible weakness is easy to ignore until life presses on it. You feel strong because there is no payment, but your savings are thinner, your options are fewer, your retirement is slower, your emergency protection is smaller, your ability to handle a bad month is weaker. Nobody sees that from the outside. They see the vehicle, they see the clean title. They hear you say, "I paid cash," and it sounds responsible. But your private life knows the truth. Your bank account knows. Your sleep knows. Your next unexpected bill knows. That is why the strongest financial move is not always the one that sounds most impressive. Sometimes strength looks quieter. Sometimes it looks like buying less car. Sometimes it looks like keeping the old one a little longer. Sometimes it looks like financing a small portion even though you hate payments. Sometimes it looks like walking away from the vehicle you wanted because you finally admitted it would make the rest of your life too tight. And that kind of decision does not feel exciting. It feels sober. It feels adult. It feels like protecting a version of yourself nobody else is thinking about. Your future self. The person who will live with the decision after the excitement fades. That person does not care what the salesman thought. That person does not care whether the neighbor was impressed. That person does not care if the vehicle had the nicer trim, the bigger screen, the better wheels, or the badge that made you feel like you finally arrived. That person cares about options. That person cares about breathing room. That person cares about not being forced into credit card debt because one emergency showed up after the cash was gone. That person cares about being able to retire with dignity, handle repairs without panic, and make decisions from calm instead of pressure. And after 40, that becomes the real game. Not looking rich, not sounding disciplined, not proving anything, just building a life that can absorb reality. Because reality comes. It always does. The tire blows out, the roof leaks, the insurance goes up, the medical bill arrives, the job changes, the market drops, the adult child needs help, the parent gets older, the house needs something, the body needs something, life needs something. And when that moment comes, you do not want all your strength sitting in the driveway. You want some of it still available, still liquid, still quiet, still ready. So before you pay cash for a vehicle, pause. Not forever. Just long enough to tell yourself the truth. Will this purchase leave me stronger, or just leave me with no payment? Will this decision protect my household or only protect my pride? Will I still have enough cash to handle life, or am I hoping life stays gentle for a while? Am I buying transportation, or am I buying relief from years of financial pressure? Am I choosing this because it fits my life, or because I am tired and want one part of life to feel finished? Those questions do not shame you. They protect you. Because there is nothing wrong with wanting a reliable vehicle. There is nothing wrong with wanting peace. There is nothing wrong with wanting to avoid debt. There is nothing wrong with being proud of what you have saved. But do not let one good instinct cancel out the larger truth. A vehicle is supposed to carry you. It is not supposed to carry away your margin, your safety, your retirement progress, and your peace. And maybe that is the quiet lesson here. Financial maturity is not just being able to pay for something. It is being able to walk away from something you can technically afford because you finally understand what it would cost you beyond the price. That is a different kind of strength. The kind nobody applauds. The kind that does not show up in the driveway. The kind that lets you sleep when everyone else is still trying to look like they are doing fine. So if you are thinking about buying a vehicle, do not ask only what the dealership is asking. Ask what your future is asking. Ask what your household is asking. Ask what your nervous system is asking. Ask what your retirement is asking. Ask what the next emergency will ask, and then make the decision from there, not from fear, not from ego, not from pressure, from a calm, honest place. Because sometimes paying cash really does buy freedom, and sometimes it only buys silence. No payment, no lender, no monthly reminder. Just a quieter kind of pressure sitting beside you every time you drive. And if this conversation made you think about your own situation differently, follow the channel so we can keep having these conversations together. Share this video with 5 people who might be about to make a big vehicle decision without seeing the full picture. And leave a sincere comment below. Tell me whether you think paying cash for a car is always smart, or whether you have seen the hidden cost in your own life. You can also comment the topic you want me to cover in the next video. Because the most expensive financial mistakes are not always the ones that look foolish. Sometimes they look responsible, until life asks for the money back.